Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show. This is episode 908. In this, we've got a great guest. I know I say it every week, but I've been really looking forward to this. We've got Pietro Saccomani. I probably butchered his second name. I did practice, but it did no good. But all our beloved long-term listeners and viewers know my ability to butcher my guests' names is unsurpassed. So don't take it, Pietro, too personally. You're just one of many that I've butchered their surname. So, Pietro, would you like to give us a quick intro of you, like a 10, 15 seconds intro?
Yeah, for sure. So I am the founder of a company called Mobiloud. We have been running now for more than 10 years and focused on helping business owners to run an online business to turn their website into mobile apps. So building mobile apps faster, more efficiently for businesses that already have a solid web presence and have built something on the web that can already be the starting point from a mobile app.
Oh, that's great. And I've got my co-host, Kurt. Kurt, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jonathan. My name is Kurt Von Onen. I own an agency called Mañana No Mas. We focus largely on membership and learning type websites. And then I also work directly with WP-Tonic and the great folks at Lifter LMS.
So in this episode, we'll be covering, if you're a WordPress professional and you've got a client that wants a mobile app, how can Mobiloud help you with that? We're also going to be talking about the business of building up this great business, what have been some of the challenges. So it's going to have two areas where we're going to cover the most attention. But as you know, we can go anywhere with these interviews, just go with the flow. But before we go into the meat and potatoes of this great show, I've got a couple of messages from our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Coming back, folks, I also want to point out that we've got some great plugins and services, WordPress plugin and services, and some great special offers from the major sponsors. You can get all these free goodies, a curated list of the best WordPress plugins aimed at you, the WordPress professional. You can get all these goodies by going over to wp-tonic.com/deals, wp-tonic.com/deals, and you find all the goodies there. What more could you ask for? Probably a lot more, but that's all you're going to get from that particular page. I'm sorry to disappoint. I've made a career of it. So and I'll continue. So, Pietro, you gave us a quick intro. Let's delve a little bit deeper. So how did you get initially into the world of tech and then really start this company and get into app development?
Yeah. So I guess the very, very first beginning was as a blogger back in 2006, 2007. That's when I found out about WordPress, set up my own blog. We were talking about tech, and eventually we were talking about mobile technology. I remember kind of live streaming the iPhone announcement. And so all that excitement of those days kind of prompted me to decide to start a blog specifically about that topic and sort of mobile technology, the beginning of what eventually became the mobile app business. From then, a few years passed. I worked at Apple for a few years, and then eventually around 2011, kind of made a decision to start on my own. So with a co-founder, we started a company called 50 Pixels. It was at the time kind of like an app development studio. We built apps, we built web apps as well. And eventually we built apps for other blogs, and I knew the space. I knew kind of what it meant. I knew WordPress. So kind of putting the two things together. And with the first big blog actually focused as well on iPhone. And in terms of their audience, they were really the biggest blog in Italy, addressing people that were just starting to be hungry to find apps and learn more about what was happening with Apple and with the iPhone in particular. So that blog was extremely successful, and the app that we built for them was extremely successful. And from that beginning, we decided to essentially build a platform that could allow other blogs, potentially any blog, to build a mobile app. And so the beginning of Mobiloud was really around turning a blog or a news site or a magazine built on WordPress into apps. And we evolved that platform over the years. We work with some large publishers, and we still do. And around 2016, we kind of started to expand things and go beyond the world of publishing and media and open up to more use cases.
Right. So it's a fascinating story and it's a fascinating product. I'm just going to throw it over to Kurt for the next question, and we delve into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, it's as soon as I saw that we were doing this interview, I got a little bit excited because, not gonna lie, my email is full of spam all the time. For $40, I can build any website into a mobile app, right? So you see that and then you try them and they never work. And then I looked at the reviews for your company, for Mobiloud, and you got a lot of positive 5-star reviews in there, man. It's obvious that you're working at a much higher level, and that people are, like you mentioned, use case in your answer. So I imagine it's more than just blogs. It's multifaceted type websites with different functions and stuff. When I talk like that, and then we compare it to your foundation story behind Mobiloud, what kind of problems do you think you solve now as you move forward?
Yeah, I think the problems that we solve are very similar across different use cases. Apps are really mostly about retention. They're mostly about giving your most loyal customers or users a better user experience, a better experience on mobile devices. And with that, also getting the ability to reach them on their devices with push notifications. So the two things combined, the fact that you have an icon on the home screen for your thing, and then the customer or user can find it easily. You gain that real estate on their device. And on top of that, you have this incredible channel for re-engagement, which is push notifications. And depending on the use case, things change slightly, but the essence is often the same. The use cases that work best for a mobile app are those where you see potential for repeated use, right? So media was an obvious one at the time, and it's still a strong one. So of course, people want to be up to date with the latest, whether it's news from a regional newspaper or a magazine or situations like that. But beyond that, we've expanded over the years to do a lot of community sites, some e-learning sites, and e-commerce. E-commerce is probably today the biggest of all the use cases that we serve. And we see, especially the latter, the almost most obvious opportunity for people that have built a brand and have a loyal customer base to have an extremely powerful channel that essentially just helps them serve that portion of their customer base that expects to find a mobile app and shops using apps and uses apps all the time. And if they didn't have an app, then they would essentially mostly be missing out on that segment of their customer base. And with everything that I mentioned, what we see, and we've done work with some pretty large brands and retail brands, consistently, the behavior that people have inside of apps is such that kind of allows them to express that loyalty and that interest they have for the brand and what's on offer, so that almost all the metrics show an important improvement compared to mobile site performance. Even if, especially the way that we build apps, oftentimes there's close to no difference between the mobile site experience and the app experience. So it's really about the medium, about the fact that people first of all, self-select as a loyal customer by downloading the app in the first place and identify themselves as such, and then have an opportunity to come back to that experience, as often as they want. But kind of from the perspective of the brand, you kind of get an opportunity to be considered in that subset of icons, we might say, brands that get to take some of that person's time on their device. And when you think about both our media consumption habits and our shopping habits, really most of these experiences these days happen on a smartphone. And if you don't have that presence, then you kind of don't have that opportunity.
Awesome. So if I were to kind of dissect your answer, what I'm picking up is the push notifications is a big thing, because we're assuming they already have a website, right? So they have a site,
Yeah.
Now they want a mobile example. So push notifications and kind of like just that boost, or that customer loyalty boost, that kind of extra community feel that you've got the real estate on the phone. Is that the two main things?
Yes, I think it's about convenience, essentially. So the icon on the home screen, it's about convenience. It's about being found again. And at push notifications, it's obviously it's more of a push strategy. It's coming from the brand, but people are fully in control of what they receive. It's easy for them to opt out from categories of notifications that they don't want to receive. It's kind of easier, I think, on the consumer side of things to gain control of what they receive compared to a medium like email, where we get inundated. There's the newsletters you send out to, but there's also all the spam that you actually don't want to have, which is making essentially email as a channel harder and harder because of all the noise, and because the platforms like Google and Gmail kind of try and clean up that mess that our inboxes have become. Which makes push notifications actually an incredible channel, just because there's less competition in a way, and there's more control for a consumer for what they actually receive. So if they choose to receive your notifications, then it's an incredibly impactful and powerful channel for the brand.
Yeah, and in my mind, I'm thinking, how many people mismanage their bookmarks? Like, they might even love your website, but the chances of them getting back to it are pretty slim, really, in the grand scheme of things. But if it's an icon on the phone and it's visible, then it's more likely to be clicked on time and time again.
Absolutely. I think that's the essence of it.
Cool. Jonathan, over to you.
Yeah. So before we go into the other main question, I think I'd like to know a little bit about the nitty-gritty, because obviously I can't actually remember how you came on my radar, actually, but obviously at WP-Tonic, we specialize in membership and community websites. And obviously BuddyBoss have their own mobile solution. But you offer it for LearnDash, you offer it for other learning management systems, you offer a solution for BuddyBoss, and then you got this e-commerce, and you've got this two-tier solutions. You got the set monthly price solution, and then you have the full custom price. But obviously we're dealing with WordPress and this, so can you give some insight, if like a WordPress professional came to you, some of the things they've got to have in the back of their mind, because I would imagine for the set price solution, the monthly solution, you have maybe a list of, I'm only surmising this, that you have a list of plugins that you recommend that people have? Because I just don't know how you deal with somebody that might have a real jumble of different plugins that might conflict with how your platform works.
Yes. So the beauty of our solution, especially the general solution that we built for this problem, which is a platform that we call Canvas internally, is that it works with any plugin, technically. So we actually do very, very well with very complex situations, right? So site with tens of plugins, no problem. Because essentially anything that you built on the web will work in this platform. What we do is we take what you built on the web and we add just what's missing so that you can actually publish it as a mobile app. Of course, it has to be a great mobile experience already. But these days it's hard to think of building without considering mobile first. And so once you have built something solid on the web, there's almost, and especially in a complex situation with lots of moving parts, lots of plugins, lots of elements, lots of custom code, it's almost unthinkable to build apps any other way than this. Meaning the complexity of replicating or potentially integrating with all these different elements is such they would make it absolutely not viable and very, very hard to see any sort of return from doing things sort of the custom way. And of course, there's no out-of-the-box solution or template-based solution that will, tick all the boxes once you have such a complex setup, right? So if it's a basic blog, yeah, there's probably some alternative for that. But as soon as you have all that complexity, things don't work. Things don't work out of the box, and a template will never be a good solution, right? So the idea here is like, don't rebuild the wheel. Don't rebuild what you already have. Just add what you're missing and just gain an extra channel, essentially with no extra work, no work to maintain, no work to build an app. We convert. We don't build apps. We don't actually build custom apps. The apps are custom because the customer comes with a custom setup, custom website, and gets an app that is as unique as their website at the other end of the process.
So basically it's a fully hosted solution so basically you take data points from the WordPress website and you display that which you can customize the design so it matches up with the feel of the website. So are you utilizing, I'm only surmising this, are you utilizing the WordPress headless API system to take the data and put it into your fully hosted solution?
Well, since we're getting technical, technically we have two platforms. One platform that is designed for media is built with APIs, the way that you mentioned, and then provides easy web-based customization for the front-end side of things within WordPress. That's the platform that we built for publishing and media, and that is integrated with the WordPress API, and it's integrated with Gutenberg for customization. We have a second platform that's it's actually much more agnostic about what's happening in the back end. It works with potentially any platform, also outside of WordPress. We started in the WordPress space, but today WordPress is probably 60 to 70% of our customer base. And this second platform works with potentially any plugin. We do have, of course, a WordPress plugin ourselves. It will actually literally add all the native elements in terms of navigation, push notifications, analytics, user experience elements that blur the lines between what is a mobile site experience and an app experience, but essentially allows you to build something on the web for the web, mobile first, and then just add what's missing so that you can actually publish that as the mobile app, so that your mobile site doubles as the front end for your mobile app too. And through a WordPress plugin, you can potentially use a separate theme for the app from the site. You could have custom code that is injected just in the app and not on the site. So you have all that flexibility of potentially making the two experiences slightly different, But the essence of the idea here is that you've already built something on the web that's as good as a mobile app. It's just that you're missing the few elements that we add effectively to be able to have that presence on people's home screens as the icon that we were talking about, to get that presence on the app stores, and to get push notifications, which really are the reasons to build a mobile app.
All right, thanks. Back over to you, Kurt.
I'm going to get back to soft skills and less about tech, if that's all right. With your experience in the SaaS area, do you have any insights on like what you personally see as mistakes that founders have with startups, or stuff that you see on a regular basis as you help others with companies?
Yeah, well, many. I can think about my own mistakes. That's probably a good source. I think as founders, we often have a temptation. We build kind of horizontal solutions, and like ours, for example, right? You can turn any website into a mobile app, right? And we approach the market, quote unquote, with an offer built that way. And I think that's often a mistake. That's often the hard way. It's advice that's been repeated a lot, but it's a hard lesson to learn, where you really see the potential to serve a lot of different groups of people, but finding that niche down group of people, that specific ideal customer that actually really has a burning pain to solve. That I think is, not finding that early enough was a mistake on our end, and it's a mistake that I often see repeated by others. And the struggle then is that if you're trying to appeal to everyone, then of course you kind of want to appeal to anyone, right? Your messaging would be weak. Your choice of channels would be too spread out. You don't know exactly how to talk to your customers because you're trying to talk to 5 people at the same time, by different types of people. So that's the struggle, right? And a mistake that we're kind of still trying to work on to kind of fix.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in my personal journey, and I don't want to give too much mojo away, but in my personal journey owning my own agency, I found that in my earlier walk as an agency, I was entertaining way too many people ahead of market, like people that wanted membership and learning websites that just quite honestly weren't in the business space yet to need a membership or a learning site. Like they had these aspirations, and that's awesome, but they hadn't built community yet. You know what I mean? They weren't really ready for the product. And then if we just be blunt, starting with you, rates start at $200 a month, $540 a month, $1,000 a month. That has to translate into some kind of business model with the return on investment. And so there has to be some level of revenue coming from the project, right, before they launch, or deep pockets to deal with that growth period to get to revenue. How many people do you think dive in too early?
Yeah, but that's been a lesson for us. When we began, we were charging something like $69 a month, I think was our cheapest. And we've seen it over time as we've grown, as we increase prices, we just gotten better and better customers, less and less problems. I would say for us, 90% of our churn is people shutting down their website. And that was much more of an issue when we were charging $69 a month than where we are today, right? So for us to essentially, in a way, build up the ability to serve bigger and better customers internally as we grow and as the team grows, but also simply making that choice has helped massively in being able to focus working with companies that actually have the resources to make this project a success, and companies that frankly are just not going to shut down in a year's time, right? So there's something about making a choice about the segment of the market that you want to help that certainly has been helpful for us.
That's nice, insightful. Thanks, Jonathan.
So what kind of, in the WordPress space, because I know you commented that it's not solely WordPress, but your roots are there. So in the people that approach you, what kind of is it agencies and freelancers that initially approach you, or is it mostly the actual end customer that approach you, or is it a really 50-50 split? And what kind of realistic timeline do freelancers or agencies who are approaching you need to consider to end up with a really working? I know that these are very broad questions because it depends on the nitty-gritty, doesn't it? Totally. But I thought, because of our audience, I should ask you that question.
Yeah, sure. I would say it's probably a 50-50, especially in the WordPress space. We do see a lot of agencies and freelancers coming our way. The timelines are actually not typically affected by the complexity of the project because we don't do custom development, right? So it's not like we're not getting into a different project every time. For us, the project is actually very similar. For every client of ours, we, as we said, all the complexity in a way stays in the back end. Once you have a solid front end to convert that works and looks good, we just assist. We help with all the kind of technical mobile app side of things, as well as we help tweak the user experience inside of the apps so that it's as close as possible to what you'd expect from a mobile app. Typically what we see as what might delay a project is situations regarding the type of business that we're talking about. There are certain types of businesses that just don't play well with the App Store ecosystem. So situations where it can go from gambling to selling certain types of products that where you have to comply with certain regulations. So those are the biggest holdups, and we kind of mostly learned to not work with that type of situation. Otherwise, it's generally smooth sailing for us in terms of easily converting what has already been built on the web and being able to publish that as a mobile app. That's typically for us a project that's less than a month. We quote on our website, we say less than 2 weeks. That's really like if everything goes super smooth on the customer end as well, then we can probably make that time available. We published an app for a pretty big retail group, Route 21, and we published it, I think, in a week. So certainly it's possible to be that fast if everything is ready to move on the customer end as well, right? So there's a few elements like getting an App Store account, getting a Google Play account. Those things are on the customer side for us, and those might take time. There's, for us, it's a simple form to fill in for us to get the information that we need to be able to publish the app on App Store and Google Play. Then it's essentially hands off for the customer. We take care of essentially all that app publishing process for the customer, so they don't have to worry about those elements.
Just got a quick follow-through question before we go for our break. I know with BuddyBoss's solution that there can be a little bit of problem from the website and the hosting and the performance of the website, and that can cause some problems for the mobile side. Is that similar in your platform, that the website that you're basing the app solution has to have really good hosting and be set up in a kind of quasi-professional way?
Yes, but either of our platforms, whether it's the media one or a more general solution, it always matters because effectively the app is pulling from the site in the same way that a browser is pulling from that server, right? So if the hosting is poor, if the performance is poor, if the pages that are actually loading inside of the app are not built so that they're performing, then that's going to be an issue in the app just as much.
And with the kind of proliferation of, like, you've got Elementor, you've got other page builders, you've got native Gutenberg, has this whole scenario got a bit more complicated for you over the last couple of years, or has it always been something you've had to deal with?
So on the media side of things, we're kind of independent of what you would use as a page builder. So we pull directly from the WordPress database the contents of what posts essentially are, and we have the ability to add all the code as you would have in the front end of your theme to be able to pull anything from plugins or custom fields or situation like that. With the more general platform, as I mentioned, use anything you want. Like you can literally use any CMS, you can use any page builder, and there's no problem with that. So maximum flexibility. I think that's the beauty of it, is that you just have to worry about having a good use case for an app. Do you need an app? I think that's the big question, right? Not everyone needs an app 100%, right? I think it's about questioning whether there's a need for something that's, what we find is if there's repeated use, then an app makes sense, right? So if you imagine the end user coming back to this experience, whatever that is, multiple times per week potentially, then an app makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, because I think Kurt would agree, because it's the same story about building a community element to your membership. It's a great idea, but you've got to invest the time and have the people that want to have a community. And I think some of the questions that maybe people don't ask about building a membership site and then committing to also building a community at the same time, and then they also want an app, unless they've got some experience, they're piling a lot of additional work. So it's great ideas at the right time, but it depends on the case scenario. Right, I think we're going to go for a halfway break. It's been a fantastic discussion. We've got a couple other messages from sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
Tired of hosting providers that can't handle high traffic loads? Conversio is here to help. Our platform can handle any amount of traffic, all without slowing down or crashing. With immediate Slack support, performance optimization, and a team that thrives on resolving technical challenges, your e-commerce business is in safe hands. Learn more about Conversio at conversio.com.
We're coming back, folks. It's been a great discussion in the first half. We've been talking about all things mobile and WordPress and community. But before we go into the second half, I want to point out we've got a great newsletter aimed at the WordPress end user or professional. It covers tech, WordPress. I think it covers a lot of things that you won't find in another newsletter. You can sign up by going over to wp-tonic.com/newsletter, wp-tonic.com/newsletter. Sign it up. I write it myself every week, and I'd love you to sign up for it. So over to you, Kurt.
Well, I get the fun one. AI. We talk about AI on a lot of our episodes because it just seems to infiltrate or fit into so many conversations. But
I think you've jumped a question, actually. I'm sorry. I think we got the number 4 question.
Oh, there we go. What are a couple of the biggest obstacles that you faced in getting traction with Mobiloud?
Yeah. So we had many obstacles along the way. I think on the positive side of things, we were lucky to start in the WordPress ecosystem, because really that's what generated most of the initial traction that we have gotten, right? Almost, we didn't expect it, we didn't plan it, we didn't plan for it, but having a presence on the WordPress directory, and this was almost a decade ago, it's kind of what has enabled the business to start, right? Just getting that initial kick. The challenge, then, the obstacle, was to grow beyond that. And over time, what has, in a way, helped us continue growing is figuring out other channels. And that has been mostly for us content and SEO that's driving really the growth of the business. And so we love writing content. We create a lot, and we have a lot on our site. and we kind of, it's a channel that I like, that kind of fits with, you know, the idea of building a bootstrap business as this is. You know, we kind of never really cracked the, you know, paid ads side of things, and maybe we will eventually, but so far that's where we are. In terms of obstacles, then we had situations, I would say. I think back in 2017, there was Apple essentially made changes to their terms so that effectively they banned from one day to the other apps that were built using templates, quote unquote. And at the time, they were trying to crack down on copycats. I don't know if you'd remember when you know, you would be able to buy like an Angry Bird template, change the name, change the graphics, and publish that as another clone. But in the process, they almost killed every app builder on the market overnight. So those were some tense moments, as you can imagine. But over time, they kind of reverted their decision, and since then, we've had no issue. And I think the obstacles that we've found mostly throughout is the obstacle of every bootstrap SaaS business, right? Is being able to find repeatable sources to essentially acquire customers, and especially ideally customers that fit the certain customer profile, right? Because it's just so hard to grow and to grow efficiently if every customer is completely different, one to the other. So that's something that we're still working on, but hopefully we're in the right direction.
Nice. Jonathan?
Yeah, kind of follow-up question. So obviously it's you're kind of in the WordPress, but also the SaaS, and you have customers. How do you think the general customer base, the non-agency, the non-freelance professional customer, the more business to business, how do you think they're viewing WordPress? And is it still seen as the premier kind of, if you're into content, using SEO, publishing, trying to build your business up in that direction? Is it still seen as the leader, or are more SaaS platforms growing and encroaching? What's your own feel about this, if you have an opinion?
I think there's perhaps some difference if we look at different segments of the market, like the lower end of the market versus the higher end of the market. But my impression is that, I mean, just looking at the numbers, WordPress hasn't ever been as much in a leadership position as it is now, right? So it has only been growing over the last few years. And if I was to start a new business, I would certainly look at the ecosystem that's, you know, of course, around WordPress as the reason to make that choice, right? Just the ability to so quickly start with a solid foundation and have the potential, the option to tap into so many different elements that can complement that. I don't think there's anything out there that it gets even close, right? When we're looking at alternative SaaS-based solutions, if I think even about the Shopify ecosystem, where we're you know, building a presence there as well, everything there is a SaaS that gets pretty expensive pretty quickly. It's not just about a matter of cost, but it's just a matter of availability as well. That's a good, solid ecosystem as well. I can think of other situations like I've used Webflow as well. It's suddenly every problem that it's so easy to solve with WordPress, and you can expect to find a solution for. It's as if you're starting from nothing, right? There's almost nothing out there. The app ecosystem there is just beginning at the moment. I feel like it's hard to think of anything that would be better suited than WordPress when you're building something, at least where you can expect that something must have figured out this thing before, right? There must be some foundation out there already to build from. And oftentimes you can assume that with WordPress, that's the case.
That's great. Over to you, Kurt.
I'm going to move on to my AI question.
Finally, AI.
So how do you think AI is going to affect your app development business over the next year and a half, maybe 2 years?
Well, if it's my app development business, I would say AI, probably development, software development, writing code is probably one of the best use cases for UI, for AI today in terms of what LLMs can do decently. There's many other use cases for which LLMs have been applied. Content creation situations like that I don't feel very strongly about. Situations where problems like hallucinations are just making it not viable, and for other reasons where it's just not like that much of a good idea to use the tools. But for writing code, it's incredible. So that's not to say that we write all our code with AI. That's not the case. But it's just it's become, I think, an expected addition to almost every development platform these days, and that just has the potential for a developer that knows what they're doing to go faster, to just not write and rewrite the same type of thing that has just been done before many times, and go faster, be more efficient, spend time where it's better spent. So in terms of that, I think that's certainly, as I mentioned, a fantastic use case and situations that hopefully will be helpful for us as well. In terms of where AI is taking the world of apps in general, I think there's a potentially many years from now to have a context where for certain types of use cases, we use apps less, and we have, some sort of voice-based communication with devices that are always with us, and that can give us answers, can have dialogue, and building interfaces around that. I think that certainly is an interesting scenario to think about. I do think for the type of apps that we build, though, we're probably in a context where I don't see people stopping to, push buttons and swipe on screens anytime soon. Because when you think about content, when you think about e-commerce, I don't think that's where voice interfaces and AI will really make such a difference. I think we still want to consume content, visual content, especially in that way, and the type of interface that a screen provides and touch input provides, I think that's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, I'd have to say I agree with you. As you were talking, I was remembering, listening to Gary Vee like 6 years ago. And he was like, watch, I'm going to tell Alexa to order a pocketbook, or I'm going to tell Alexa to, order whatever. And I was sitting in my car in traffic in California thinking, this crazy dude's just ordering all kinds of stuff that he can't see. He doesn't know if he even likes it. He doesn't like that whole, that ambient sense of experience was just missing. Right. And then, I'm not surprised that I don't hear a lot about voice activated things really taking the lead. So I think we still require that tactile experience of seeing, touching, swiping. I think you're on the mark there. Jonathan?
Yeah. Got a question here based on my own experience at WP-Tonic. We get about 20% of people that come to us that are looking at Mighty Networks. And Mighty Networks, I think it's the main competitor to maybe BuddyBoss if you're looking to build a community website. You got Circles, but it's mostly people that are looking around the Mighty Network, and they look at the mobile solution, which I think is branded with Mighty Networks branding, and I think it starts at $39, and then it accelerates, and then you got the full custom, which is what I've been told, multiples of $10,000. Do you get a few inquiries from people that are looking at Mighty Networks, and then they also look at your solution? Do you get a few inquiries from there, or is that very rare?
I think we've had in the past, and I'm aware of similar numbers to what you shared. I think perhaps when you're in that ecosystem, it makes sense to stay in that. In that we can potentially convert any sort of website, including those. But But I think there's certain types of functionality that that wouldn't be possible. So we have deep integration with BuddyBoss and Pietro for things like push notifications. And those are possible in an easy way, meaning without building integrations, because we have our own WordPress plugin. And that means that out of the box, you can kind of get a type of push notification experience, which, especially in a community site, needs to kind of approximate what Facebook provides. And that means being notified when there's interactions, messages, comments, replies, etc. So we provide all of that, and we can provide that out of the box for the WordPress ecosystem because we have those integrations. So for us, it's where we're stronger, and Pietro, BuddyBoss is what we see the most.
They're kind of people that looking at. Some of them got existing decent membership, and they want to go into the community space because they also want the app. And I think they're kind of putting the chicken before the egg, really, because they might be better off keeping the membership. But then without the community bit, there's no point in really having the app, really, because it's the push notification and the community building. But they look at mighty networks, but they don't like that they can't have their own branding until they go, and then they have that custom, because that's what I like about your pricing. It's very reasonable to get a solution going, isn't it? So that's why I wondered if you had a few of those people approach you. But it's interesting that you say that it's still mostly from the WordPress. And I also thought your insight about Shopify, because I think Shopify is fantastic, but you always tend to hit, as your business grows, you wanted some kind of customization or some functionality. And I found if you're doing a lot of customization with Shopify, it becomes very expensive and difficult very quickly. So do you find, so how much of is the Shopify thing growing more than the WooCommerce now for you, or is it?
Shopify is certainly growing. We're certainly seeing a lot more from Shopify than from WooCommerce, actually, in the e-com space. I think perhaps just because of how Shopify is doing very well. So in terms of that complexity you're talking about, I think it's becoming a bit less of an issue for us, mostly because we work with bigger and bigger customers that are kind of used to that complexity. And so they have the resources to deal with that.
Yeah, that's understandable. Back over to you, Kurt.
Well, I get the one at the end here with the time machine, Pietro. If you had your own time machine and you could travel back to the beginning of your career, your business journey, what essential piece of advice do you think you would give yourself?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think there's something about time in my response too. So for me, it's the realization that everything takes so much time, but there is value in kind of sticking to it. And I see many people starting, new startups, software solutions, etc., and giving up too quickly, frankly, from my point of view. Whereas I would say everything that we have today really mostly comes from just being in the market for so long, and so much of everything that we do effectively compounds just with time, right? So if you think about SEO, content, building a reputation, understanding really where to point your solution in the market, where to focus on, and finding opportunities, that just comes with time and talking to customers and being in the market. And when I see people giving up in a few months, and certainly, I've had that temptation myself multiple times throughout the journey, right? As it happens, right? Because sometimes when, your MRR is down or your MRR is not growing as much, to this day, I have to say, I still struggle not to, have my mood in a way affected and my excitement affected by where that revenue chart is going. Not just because it's all about the money, but it's about, kind of like that temperature, that measurement of how well the company is doing, right? And we kind of need that growth, right? So I understand the struggle, and over time that happened, but sticking to it along, I think it's really what has made us successful after all.
That's perfect. In my own life, I can think of a couple of projects I shut down, and I shut them down just too early, because then I saw other people come in and do something similar that succeeded, right? And so sometimes sticking it out's the way to go. Jonathan?
Yeah, I think also what you said about product fit, it takes time to really work out what your customers really see as the important things, because when you start, even if you've got history in a particular niche area, you're making educated guesses based on prior experience, but really understanding the language, and you've got to have those discussions with real clientele to really, because they're not on purpose not telling you, because in their mind they have what they're really looking for, but they just don't know how to express it to you. Is that making any sense, actually, or do you think I'm waffling?
No, I think you got it. I think it's about talking to customers and iterating based on that, based on the input that you get, and really just developing a deeper and deeper understanding of the customer, of different customer types, and then going where there is true demand, where there is a true need, right? And I think that that's only possible by, first of all, thinking about the customer first and being focused on that, and just, over the years, then steering the boat based on that input.
All right, I think we'll wrap it up now. It's been a fabulous discussion. I've really enjoyed it. I think we covered quite a broad landscape in our chat. What's the best way for people to find out more about you and the company, basically?
Yes, so Mobiloud is mobiloud.com, and for myself, they can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. Oh,
thanks. And Kirk, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and what you're up to?
They can come to manananomas.com, or you can always find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Kurt Von Onen on LinkedIn. Easy to find.
That's great. And if you want to support the show, why don't you go over to the WP-Tonic YouTube channel? We're posting videos, the podcasts. We do 2 podcasts per week normally, plus a load of other video content around WordPress, membership, community. Great resource. So go over there and sign up there at WP-Tonic on YouTube. We will be back next week with another great interview. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.